Good evening. I'm Cathrine. I'll be presenting the policy interventions in Maritime Research Center. So it gives me immense pleasure to actually present the plethora of topics and research topics that we undertake at MRC as a part of the policy vertical. So at MRC broadly, we look at three verticals, which is technology, policy, and capacity building. And policy is one of the significant aspect that we look at because these three combined leads to any proper impact of any intervention. So, how do we take these policy interventions forward is how what we are going to be looking at, and it's going to be a brief overview of all the different projects that we are undertaking here. As this is a fact which everybody is well aware of, well proven, oceans and rivers are facing climate shocks and resource conflicts, and various vulnerabilities, strategic climate vulnerabilities, etc. And at the face of this, we are facing different crises. One of the major issues that we are facing is how do we harness these ocean resources when our territorial resources are getting depleted, or the conflicts are increasing terrestrial resources. How are we going to now make sure that the growing population addressing the food and water securities and energy securities of these growing bulging populations? How are we going to address that? So ocean becomes one of the glaring answers that everybody is interested in. And we've also seen the repercussions of these advancements in various technologies on the oceans. And how are we going to get those balances in place? So India's blue, and when we talk about India, India's blue economy and its regional leadership, how to fight the hydro hegemony of different nations and how to make sure that there is partnership, there is collaboration, and there is more a smooth flow of resources, energy, and technology and knowledge in this area. So, how do we also create the basis for data driven governance? So, these are all issues that we are facing today, and MRC addresses these gaps by turning scientific research into actionable policies for coast, rivers, and subsea domains by making sure that we link the technological interventions, the capacity building, and the policy interventions, the frameworks, etc., into a seamless thread of actions. So, at the heart of all of these interventions lies our ability to combine all our resources, resilient studies, all our knowledge, and community engagement and strategic foresight. So, starting off, our work focuses on the climate risk and resilience. So, all of our works, be it sediment management, coastal management, or noise management, all of that we make sure that the climate aspect, the sustainability aspect, is incorporated. The sea level rise, flooding, erosion, extreme weather model into all of it. And for our rivers, mainly Brahmaputra and Indus, the sediment flow, basin-wide vulnerability mapping or mapping of drought, mapping of floods, all inform adaptive water policies. And these insights are important so that they could be fed into the national disaster risk, early warning systems, etc., and for better planning. But these policies are only strong as the people who implement them. And for this reason, we have the 100 Warriors program. So 100 Warriors program is divided into three components. One is for rivers, one is for coastal, and one is for the overall water, looking at the water management part. So the capacity building is done to create trained youth and professionals. And who are these warriors? So these warriors are divided into three major types: the domain experts, the data analytics, and the deployment specialists. Other than that, we also have data collectors, community leaders, and first responders who who also get trained to become warriors and who become and this 100 is just an indicative number which can be scaled up based on the scale of our project. So once we train these people, it also helps with making sure that we have the proper means of establishing livelihood and creating a source of upskilling so that we have like a section of people where the livelihood generation can be established. And so the warriors become the backbone for MSP, the UDA outreach, and climate monitoring initiatives at these places. So with these trained people in place, our focus extends to governing both coast and shared rivers holistically. So coastal and transboundary river governance have been an important part of our research. With regards to coastal, we have how to make sure that the seaweed cultivation, the fisheries are optimized, are made sure that we are in sync with the digital empowerment of our time, and how that could be taken to the coastal communities. So that is one part of the project. And the other is making sure that we are also doing the UDA-driven studies for Brahmaputra and Indus River basins. So underwater monitoring is not just essential for oceans, but it plays a critical role for these huge river systems where water management in terms of quality and quantity has become very critical issues for the government, the communities, and all the other stakeholders. Other than that, apart from the flow of water, sediment flow is also an important factor. Sedimentation in the reservoir, sedimentation in the coast, even deep sea sedimentation. So all of these aspects are also taken into consideration, and we are making sure that all these aspects are not missed out. So sediment dynamics, flooding, transboundary disputes, climate resilience planning, and conflict sensitive data sharing. So data sharing is also an important aspect because it's a sensitive issue, and even recently um, during a standoff between China and India, the data sharing between China and India was restricted because of diplomacy issues. So such issues can be, and there are various other um, 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 drawbacks, or issues which pertain to these changing geopolitical dimensions. So all of that, if UDA is set as a base and there is some regional collaboration and cooperation, there is a framework to bring these states together. So how do we do that? How can such sensitive data sharing be done without uh, without making without keeping this exclusive, and not making sure that it gets influenced by various other dynamics in the region. So to make these governance frameworks equitable and effective, we embed indigenous practices along with the science. So indigenous knowledge is also important to make sure that all our policy frameworks are inclusive and equitable. So we make sure that we formalize the local practices in coastal and river governance. We encourage decolonial co-management models, and to bridge the community wisdom with adaptive governance framework. So what we're looking at is make sure we assess the knowledge in the place at present. What are the different perceptions of the changing times of these people? And then what are the actions that they have been taking at the local level? And what are the actions that the government is proposing? And how can we find the synergy? So that is basically the gist of the intelligence knowledge integration. So with strong community foundation, MRC also strengthens strategic and economic governance. So recently we've undertaken plenty of field visits to Maharashtra, Veeraval, Ratnagiri, and even Kerala at present, where we are trying to gauge what are the different practices, what are the different perceptions, and what are the local actions that are in place. So marine spatial planning and submarine infrastructure, this is another policy take that we are undertaking right now. So we are developing frameworks to make sure that we have an MSP suitable for the tropical waters, and and it also making sure that all the economic sectors, all the zoning is done properly with climate resilience in place. So, and other than that, we are also doing the risk analysis for the different underwater infrastructure and the port infrastructure critical for the digital and trade economy. The culmination of all of these work has been our Marine Spatial Planning Handbook, which makes sure that we have put together all the policy, technology, and capacity building initiatives for the marine spatial planning in one place. Where when put together, we can see the blue economy trade-offs and all the factors that are going to be influencing the marine spatial planning, the actual execution. So managing the land and sea use isn't enough. So we also have to tackle the sediment and silt with proper frameworks. So which underpin the coastal and river stability. So for that, we are also looking at the sediment and silt policy and all the economic numbers that are required to justify such a policy. So this is a research-driven policy on dredging and erosion and riverine transport, which uses economic and UDA modeling to create national guidelines. So, policy research addresses dredging, inefficiencies, erosion, and climate driven sediment shifts. So, all these elements feed into the bigger picture of economic and strategic uh, framework. So, here we have the final leg of the project, which is the geoeconomic, geopolitics, and the blue economy accounting. So here we are assessing the different sectors. We are doing sectoral analysis of what is happening in the major coastal, and riverine sectors, and trying to create a framework, accounting framework that integrates the SDG and ESG metrics for investors and governments. And this could help us exploit the resources sustainably in such a way that the climate risk adjusted economic value is properly known and we do not overuse and make sure that we optimize our use. So, and the geopolitical implications of trade and underwater assets are also properly understood to guide the policy narrative. So, looking ahead, our research will deepen and scale these policy frameworks for national and regional impact. To conclude my presentation, I would like to just give an overview of what all we are doing. So, frameworks for climate resilient sediment and silt management, standardized blue economy accounting model, transboundary river governance protocols using UDA for data sharing and conflict resolution, submarine cable and critical infrastructure protection frameworks, policy integration of MSP and digital transformation at both regional, state, central, and even in a more decentralized fashion. How can we look at it? And various publications and collaborations that we are undertaking and we have, which is already ongoing and proposed, are the MSP handbook, which is going to be published in collaboration with Springer Nature. ICWA, we have already submitted our chapters on UDA and Sagar initiative. UDA for Andamans is also another proposal that we are working on. Silt policy framework with the Maharashtra government. MSP framework is also on the table. UDA for ASEAN is also proposed with RIS and IMO Global. We are also part of the task force of IMO Global, which is looking at underwater radiated noise. And other organizations we are partnering for publications regarding these policy frameworks, IDSA and RIS. With this, I would like to conclude my presentation. Thank you so much.